Today's podcast is with the amazing Tom, and it is on the subject of mindfulness, poetry, and short stories. To achieve mindfulness, living right in the moment, means that we can stay calm in any event. We don't live in the past, we don't live in the future, we live right here, right now. Tom discloses some things that have gone on in his life and a personal thing that happened to him just yesterday, where mindfulness stepped in and allowed him to live in the moment and enjoy life and not let small things that happen, small events, rule the rest of our day. That's our power. If anyone's struggling with that, at the minute, as my role as a mindset and motivation coach, I'm giving away 5 free 30-minute consultations and we can talk about how I can help you in your life to create the future you want by just addressing and looking at some of the things that you're doing in your daily life that could be slightly tweaked in order for you to enjoy things more and live in mindfulness. Because at the end of the day, life is an amazing thing. And we should be living it and loving it because it's too short. So if you want to get in touch, you can get hold of me at christian@christian-hoyle.com or send me a DM on Facebook under Christian Hoyle and we can start a conversation how you can also start to live a life of mindfulness and enjoy every part of it. Talking about enjoying it, here comes the podcast with Tom. We talk about short stories and poems, about how you can start being right here, right now, and enjoying this beautiful world. Here we go with the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Good.
We were discussing last night about you having a voiceover thingy. Have you ever heard the thing that goes, EA Sports, it's in the game?
Oh, yeah.
Go on, give us it. Give us your best. It's EA Sports, it's in the game.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Interestingly enough, I went through a gaming spell, and EA Sports was my go-to.
Go on, one more. Give us one more.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
We were discussing this. You have got a voice. Like after I'd listened to some of the broadcasts, and your voice, I don't know, people must have said this to you, it's got specific, like you really understand it as it's said. Like my voice, my accent sometimes discards words where you're dead clear and I get what you're saying.
Oh, well, yeah, I think it has to do with my ear more than my voice. I've just always had an ear for sound. I went over to Germany at 17. I was in the Air Force, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be there, but
I bet you loved it when you were there, though, because I love Germany.
Oh, I did. Once I was there for a month, I got over the homesickness and we called it the Hahn crud. I was stationed at Hahn Air Base in Germany, and when you go to a new environment, quite often your body will go through some physical changes, and you'll get used to the new environment and everything. And that happened to everybody when you went over there. So once that phase was over and I moved off base, my younger brother sent me a pocket dictionary, German English dictionary that he stole from school. And he sent it to me, and that thing, I just decided that I was going to learn to speak German, and I went through that book every night. And
no way.
Yeah, I would write down lists of words. I went back to like 3rd grade vocabulary tactics, right?
Wow.
Entry level vocabulary tactics. And I do speak German. Yeah.
Well, fluent?
Fluent enough that the last time I was there, I was hanging out with one of my American friends and a couple of German friends at a German bar. And another German guy came in. I had never met him before, but he sat down next to me. We were talking back and forth in German for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so. And somebody said something to me in English, and I responded to them in English. And this guy looked at me like I had 3 heads.
No way.
He said, "You're American?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "No, you're not American."
Wow.
I've just been talking to you for 20 minutes. You do not sound American. So I was able to, it's my ear, I think, more than anything.
Right. Well, we're using you here now because today's podcast is about mindfulness and the using of poetry and short stories. So before we started, I thought, I'm not a big poet. I'll be honest with you, Tom, right now. I struggle a little bit with it. So when I came up with the idea, I should have some poetry, shouldn't I?
Not necessarily.
No, this is exactly. No, I didn't have any personal poetry, but I like the idea. The idea is whatever makes you in the moment, not in the future, not in the past, sticks there right and then, is the best thing ever for your own mental stability. Being right here, right now is how to get it. So I haven't got much poetry, but I'm going to hit us off with, it's not poetry, but I just saw this thing this morning and I just thought, this is exactly where it's not. I'll start with this. I've got 5 different things and then you'll do your things said in your amazing voice. So it's going to sound better than my Northern England voice. We've got a bit of stereotype. As he has his British cup of tea to start the day, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to read, this was a social media post I saw this morning. And I just loved it. And I love stuff like this. I love anything like this. The picture was with a gentleman holding a lady's hand, and they're both in excess of 85, wearing customary older people's dress. They've got the hat, long jacket. They look elderly. And this is how the post goes. He is 85 and insists on taking his wife's hand everywhere they go. When I asked him why his wife kept looking away, he responded, because she has Alzheimer's. I then proceeded to ask him, will your wife worry if you let her go? He then replied, she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't know who I am anymore. She hasn't recognized me for years. Surprised, I said, and you have continued to guide her every single day, even though she doesn't recognize you. The elder man smiled and looked into the eyes and said, she may not know who I am, but I know who she is, and she is the love of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. I got little tingles then off that. It's like, right. So this is what I saw from it. This is why I thought it'd be apparent. Someone else would have been crushed by their partner having Alzheimer's because they forgot who they were when they weren't recognizable, and their life as it was before had stopped. Yeah. That's what happened with this gentleman. But he never let that happen because he looked at things in a different perspective, saw a different thing, and got a different thing out of it. And that's the thing, isn't it? Perspective. We all have a choice on what we see something as. I can come along and see it differently, and someone else can see it as something else. That's our choice. So even some people go, well, your perspective's lying to yourself. Wow, the mind needs tricking. The mind is a very complex thing, and if we don't trick it into being in a certain way, like how we start our day, the intentions of our day, the intentions of what we do, then the mind is this complex web that does need a bit of a actually. I love that.
Yeah.
So have you brought some of your poetry that you've done yourself?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Right. So go on then. Give us your first one, and before you do it, tell us anything you feel is relevant about it.
All right. Hang on a second. I'm gonna get my file folder here.
I've got some good stuff. Even though while you're looking for that, even though I have got a piece of poetry that I'd always known about, it actually comes from. I'm always intrigued by people's tattoos, especially if they have a long verse written. And I once went surfing with a guy and I said, wow, that's a hell of a verse. What is it? And it was this poem. Probably one of the only poems I know, so I'll choose that one. I've got a couple of cracking stories.
All right.
But in the meantime, let's have yours, Tom.
All right. So this one is called, this poem I wrote back in 1996. And this was very near the end of my first marriage. So I was going through quite a bit of turmoil in my life, things that I had never experienced before. The loss of a great love. I thought.
How old are you then? How old?
I was 34 years old.
And until 34, you'd never experienced the loss of a love.
Not like this. No.
Wow.
No.
Intriguing. I felt love at 14, and then, let me just tell you before we move on, I'm going to say this. I'm just going to chuck it out. So if anyone feels embarrassed about stories, right? I've got a really embarrassing story. When I was 14, I was going out with this girl. She was called Rachel Wilson. You know, I loved her. She was my first love. And then she ended the relationship. I think we'd been seeing each other for 6 months. And it was at that age where we'd all started going out drinking. So we were drinking in places, you know, cans of lager and whatnot. So I'm drunk and I want to, God, just saying this, I can feel the embarrassment in my whole, I think I've gone red. Look, I've actually gone red.
Yeah, you have.
Right. So then we like, I want to win her back, and as the drinks go, obviously my rational thought goes with it, as alcohol does that, puts you in different places. But as we went through it, I decided, oh God, just saying this. I decided, and I don't know why I decided, but I did do it. But I decided if I had an epileptic fit and I told her about it, she would take me back. So what I went on to do, and I have no idea why, was to fake a drunken epileptic fit.
Oh, God.
Which involved me doing this thing on the floor, sort of like. But then the thing was, she wasn't there. What I then really intelligently thought was, now I need to go to her house late on a Friday night to tell her what's happened, and that will win her back. The end of the story. It didn't not only win her back, but I looked incredibly stupid.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Just got to get that one off my chest for anyone who's done some embarrassing things. We've all done them.
Oh, yes, we have. Yeah.
Right, we ready, Tom?
So this one, I wrote this about 1996, and I had gotten into a writing group. This was right after the internet became a thing, you know, and my brain likes puzzles. So one of the things in poetry is form poetry, and it's very much a very complex puzzle that you have to piece together, and it has to have some meaning and some thought provoking content, right?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult puzzle. So a villanelle is what I took the challenge on, and a villanelle it's a poem in 3-line stanzas in which the same 2 rhyme sounds are used throughout. First and third lines of the first stanza serve as a refrain, and they return in alteration all the way through the poem, okay? And it has a very strict rhyming scheme that it has to follow. So I took this challenge on, and it took me about 9 months actually to write this poem, but I didn't give up.
What's the title?
The title of this is Revision of Thought.
Like it. Love it. Love it.
So, the joining, oh so many years ago, blissfulness with our eyes heaven's twinkling, to treasure it is all that I now know. Our souls entwined, not knowing where to go, blind and young as our sweet bells were ringing, the joining, oh so many years ago. From day to day we lived our private show, laughing, joking, not of difference thinking, to treasure it is all that I now know. But somehow, sometime, somewhere it did go. This wondrous bloom, wilting, petals shrinking, our joining, oh so many years ago. A wind, immense divisions it did show. Love faded by the tensions, now it's stinging. To treasure, is it all that I now know? And when the sky is dark, it truly shows the poignant memories my heart is bringing. The joining, oh so many years ago, to treasure it is all, now that I know.
Wow. I just listened to all that. I normally get a bit of wandering in my mind. That was really, really good.
Thank you.
Wow, I felt the pain of what you've been going on, and but moving on as well. The words are about moving on, but accepting where you are. Well, that's what I felt.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's really strange is that when I was writing this, I had a set of experiences up to that point in my life, right? And that's where this came from.
Mm.
As I've gone back over the years since I wrote this, each time I've gotten into a difficult place in my life, I've reread this and I've seen how it applies to that particular situation as well. So there was something something lasting in here for me anyway, right? It still has power to me in my own life.
I felt it powerful. I felt you're really good with words, and the fact I know about, like when I was at school, I remember about the rhyme in the first and the third line and doing that. Bloody, that is complex. Coming up with that, complex.
Oh, yeah, very. I had thankfully I had a mentor in this group that helped me through the form poetry stuff that I was working on. She didn't write any of it, but she would critique it for me, and she was really she was a great mentor because she always asked the questions, right, and never gave the answers.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. That's a tough task to do.
Right. She would point out the error and point out to the proper form or the proper technique, but she would do it in such a vague way that there was never any there was never any meat there, right? It was just the bones. And I had to come up with my own flesh, right? I had to put the flesh on the bones. So
that's the best mentor.
Yeah.
Because we can all identify what someone else is doing, but we can't make them change it unless they decide it themselves. We can feed the information that's possibilities, but everyone has to take it on themselves, and that's the challenging part. It's easy to identify what the problem is, to come up with a solution, and normally a little slight habit change is a thing in itself.
Yeah.
Did you publish that?
I did not publish it yet. No, but.
So we're talking here 25 years ago. That was wow.
Yeah, 25 years ago.
Nuts.
And I wrote. You remember the sonnet that I sent you?
Yeah.
I wrote that about the same time. Actually, I wrote the sonnet first, and then the villanelle.
So you're a good example of using art and writing and poetry as a mindfulness thing to get you back in the moment. You use it a lot. Like when we did the art thing, I felt it phenomenal. Your knowledge now. Because this is new to me. Mindfulness is not new, but different mechanisms to support it and to get you there is new. And one of them is the art and the drawing, which is I've always liked. I'm not really talented. In fact, I'm zero talented, but I enjoy doing it.
Uh-huh. Well, interesting. I just read the book, Oprah's new book, What Happened to You, and it's about our past. It's about what happened to us in our past that makes us the way we are today and has us thinking the way we think today and processing information the way we process it today. And it's what happens to us affects us so deeply that the brain gets wired in these responses, right?
Conditioned responses that you pick up all the time.
But the brain is so powerful and so repairable. It's neuroplasticity is real, right? It's the ability of the brain to reconfigure itself, and the only way to reconfigure a brain is for the person that owns that brain to be aware of what that brain's doing.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that they mentioned in this book was how helpful creativity is in the process of rewiring your brain.
Because you can rewire your brain. That's important for anyone to understand. You don't have to be conditioned to the way you think, because you can challenge and change it anytime you want. When you figure out what the program is that you've come under, you can start realizing when the events happen. This is what there's a book called. I'll recommend another one. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by I can remember it's Joe Dispenza. I think he's Joe. We've been there. I get the name wrong every time, but it's about that you don't have to act like you always have just because you've always acted like it. All you've got to do is identify. I did calls through the week on shouting, that people who shout a lot. Like when I was younger and I started teaching, I shouted for 3 months, and then I realised the only person who's getting stressed out here is me. Stop the shouting. They're winning. But then did I stop shouting at my kids? Yeah. No. I kept that going for a long time. Sure. Whereas now I don't shout, because if I shout all the time, how do they know when I really mean it?
Right. Yeah.
You know, so that was one conditioning of the mind.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the receiver of that transmission of communication.
Negative energy.
What are they thinking? Does that foster reception of my communication, or no? It puts up barriers to it, right? So I have to be real careful. You know, my last sessions in therapy dealt very much about how my responses to stimuli were received by those around me. Because it wasn't shouting so much, but it could be as simple as a facial expression that turns the other person off, right?
Yeah.
Or my tone of voice that could turn somebody off.
A negative tone or a certain way of saying it, or almost like the tone says everything that your body's meaning, and you say a word. It might be one word, but the way you say it indicates a different meaning to what the rest of you is saying, and it can be I know that.
Right.
When you're up against, it's like you go to a shop and someone's in that mode, and you're in that shop and you just pass through it, but you pass through that little bit of a negative time frame going through. I always try and shift them. I always go, "How are you doing?" And then they'll stay in it, and I'll go, "What have you been doing today?" And you snap out of it, and that's what people have to learn to do, to snap themselves out. I can snap someone else out, but how do you snap yourself out of it?
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to be aware of what's happening in me right now, right? And when I feel that little thing coming up in my stomach and up into my chest, that little twinge that I know is the start of anxiety or stress, then I pause and I take a breath. And I saw what was that? I saw last night. Was it pear? Pause, accept, investigate. What was the R?
Release. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's I have to go through that thing every time I feel this in my body, right? And if I'm not aware of my body and what's happening in it, it's all connected. It's connected to my brain.
Worry and stress and anxiety are all about things that might happen in the future. Yeah? So they're all about things that might happen. So everyone who's suffering, who's having anxiety and worries, suffers from things that aren't real, that aren't here right now, that may happen.
Imagine
so if you were describing someone else, you're going to suffer at your thoughts of something that might come. You'd go, no, as if I would do that to myself.
Right.
That's what lots of people do.
Yeah.
And flinging it back to what we're getting at, as when you're reading these out or taking in poetry or taking in a story, and you can get yourself where that's your moment, nothing else, no energy from anywhere else, you become stable right there, right then, and tranquil in that moment. And that's what mindfulness is.
Exactly. You know, I had an insight yesterday. The girlfriend of my landlord was very upset yesterday, and she was upset. She feels that I'm having a free ride here. I'm not having.
Feels you're having a free ride.
Yeah, she thinks I'm having a free ride now. I spent over 50 days, I think 53 days last summer, working on this house at discounted labor rates. This was part of the deal. I provide discounted labor. He provides discounted rent. Fair.
Yeah. Well, you've got a deal. If you've got
Right.
a deal, you've got a
We've
deal.
got a deal, and I committed to it, and I fulfilled my part of the commitment. And yesterday, she came out of the house screaming.
She lost it.
Now she hasn't, by her own choice, she hasn't spoken to me in almost a year, right? Because she got upset with me and told me she wasn't going to talk to me anymore. Okay, that's your choice. I don't have anything to do with her, really. So it wasn't any. She was an acquaintance of mine. That's all.
Yeah.
Just somebody I knew. And really, she has a very low vibe, and I didn't want to be around her anyway. So that was fine by me if she didn't want to talk to me. So yesterday, out of the blue, she comes out of the house and scares my dog back into my house and tells me that the free ride is over. And she's screaming that everybody in the neighborhood can hear it.
Free ride is over, Tom. Tom,
Right.
free ride over right now.
and I hadn't spoken to her in a year, right? She didn't want to talk to me in a year. And I just thought, well, that's strange. I felt myself I felt that thing in my chest, right? That uneasiness.
She wanted.
The
She wanted
nerve,
that.
yeah, the nerve started a little bit, and I almost immediately, I bet I maybe felt that for 10 or 15 seconds, and I stopped myself.
Yes.
I stopped myself, and I said,
Yes.
"Oh, just breathe. There's no danger here. There's no danger at all. Just breathe."
Yes.
And within 30 seconds, poop, all of that stuff I was feeling gone, just gone. And I was back to my normal self again.
That's a technique you've learned, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep that. Someone keeps that. That she kept whatever went on in her morning, and what she did with you was nothing to do with you. It's to do with her day.
Exactly.
And everyone else who was in her path as she went through it felt the same peril. But
Yeah.
you've learned a technique that I try and teach people that you don't have to let an emotion stay with you forever. You can accept it's there, see it, acknowledge it, release it. And that's exactly what you did.
Exactly.
This little story fits in with what you were saying about old patterns of behaviour, yeah? Really much so, as if I got this story thinking what you were going to say. This one's called "Never Let One Failure from the Past Hold You Back in Your Life." We all know about that one. Bloody hell. I like this. As a man was passing the elephants, he suddenly stopped, confused by the fact that these huge creatures were being held by only a small rope tied to their front leg. No chains, no cages. It was obvious that the elephants could, at any time, break away from their bonds, but for some reason, they did not. He saw a trainer nearby and asked why these animals just stood there and made no attempt to get away. "Well," the trainer said, "when they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them, and at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free."
Yeah.
The man was amazed. These animals could at any time break free from their bonds, but because they couldn't believe they could, they stuck right there where they were.
Yeah.
Isn't that an analogy for people living their lives in the past, held back by people, situations, life that held them back?
Yeah.
They have a choice at any point to change it, and that could be today. You could decide today that I'm going to be free of them chains that held me back because I'm not going to let them consciously get in my mind.
Right. Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah. The fear really does. It cripples us, doesn't it?
Totally.
It can, if we let it. It'll cripple us. And I saw a video. This is a few years ago now. One of these Hindu gurus. The title of the video, you can Google search it. It's "No Fear in the Now" is the name of the video.
No fear in the now.
No fear
Like
in the now.
Love it.
Yeah, and the point of his video was that fear is imaginary.
Yeah.
It's 100% made up in our minds. It either has to do with something in the past or something in the future, but it doesn't have anything to do with right now.
It's
There's
going
no-
back to that suffering. The thought of something is far greater than the actual thing.
Yeah. Well,
What we fear one day, we
if
master
we're-
the next.
yeah, if we're fearing something in our that hasn't happened yet, that is 100% fiction.
Mm.
It only exists in our minds.
Mm.
That event has never happened. It hasn't happened yet, but here we are obsessed with it. We already know the outcome in our own minds. We know the outcome, and we're obsessed with it, and we can't shake it. And it's
The prison of the mind, isn't it?
yeah,
Like, you could have everything that you've ever dreamed of, but if you're not in connection with your mind and the inner part of you and your vibrations internally, then you can be prisoned by that forever. And fear is one of them. Anxiety is associated with fear, worries, all them things stop us, especially if we're living in the past as well.
yeah. So we're imprisoned by our imagination, nothing more.
Nuts!
Isn't
So
it?
anyone, it's like a nuts thing that you can't really. That's not true. Like, it's like the aliens come down. Let's tell you something about the human species. Yeah, a lot of us live trapped in our minds by fear of things that hadn't actually happened. We're only imagining that they could. The aliens looks at his other guy and he's like, they come back and go, "Can you explain that again?" You know.
Yeah.
Right, have you got another poem?
Sure. Let's go with this.
This is
one.
good, Tom, because what I like about this is, as you're looking, I can draw it in. You identify what lots of people struggle with, and it's other people, their interaction with other people create emotions with us that we allow to stay with us for the rest of the day. And there's that famous analogy of, if you had £83,000 in your bank and someone stole a pound, would you just throw the rest away and just give it away because you've had a pound stolen? It's the same with time. I don't know the exact time, but you have about 80,000 seconds in a day. Someone give you 10 seconds yesterday, and you just let them have 10 seconds or 15 seconds, then you went back to calm. Some people let that one event, one thing in a shop ruin the rest of the day, and the mood changed from it. Whereas what you did was you accepted that it wasn't about you, it was about the lady in conflict with you, and you just held that emotion and let it go and just left it behind and moved on with your day. Perfect. You've made it there, Tom. You have made it.
Well, I hope I still swing and miss sometimes, you know?
Yeah, we all do. But you maybe didn't do that before, though. And it was like, if you look back in your life previously and that was an issue of yours, you've got to look at that as a massive success that, I did it. I made it through it.
Exactly. And, you know, that's the thing. Part of my growth is I will never see my growth by comparing myself to somebody else.
Mm.
Never. It's comparing apples and oranges.
Mm.
So the only way I can see my growth is to compare myself to a previous version of myself. All right. So I got to be aware of what I was like back then. Right. So I think the longer we're aware, the more comfortable we become in that state of awareness to be able to swing and hit more often than swing and miss. Right.
Mm. Like it. Good analogy. Let's have this poem. What's it called? This one.
All right. This poem is called My Moon. And this one was this was kind of the opposite of revision of thought. This one came to me in about 20 minutes, start to finish. It just hit me in a flash. I was visiting my mom and dad, and I was out on the balcony at their condo, and it was nighttime. There were some clouds rolling by and a full moon, and this came to me. So I wrote it down.
The best songs ever written came in 5 minutes, and they've lasted the length of time. Some of the biggest hitting songs in the world were just done in a coach journey, a train journey, in a waiting room or whatnot, which is nuts.
In a flash, right? Yeah. All right, so here it is. My moon. To the moon I do peer. To the moon I can peer, and you will be near. with your rays pouring down through the dark and despair. Slide away, from her face slides the veil. From her face slides the veil, it slides out of the way, and her song I can hear ringing through, oh so clear. Peace and comfort she brings. Peace and comfort that sings to my heart, to my soul on wing. The connection is clear, she is always so near. The shadows she shines through to my view. Through the veil peeking to, bring the song ringing through for my ears without fear. Now I'll always be near.
Nice. You got a bit of talent with the words, aren't you? You're pretty talented with words.
Oh, thank you.
Do you always use the rhyming thing? Because they don't all rhyme. I don't think poems rhymed. You know what I mean? But when I looked yesterday, they don't, do they?
No, there's actually a non-rhyming form of type of poetry. It's called free verse. So no, and all of mine don't rhyme either. No, I can do another one here.
When did you do that one there that you just did then?
That one, let's see here. I think that was in 96 too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1996.
30-year self coming through in your poetry then.
Yeah, I haven't really written much in the past. I haven't written much poetry since that time. It's really strange. I've done a lot of artwork since then, but not much poetry. I've written other things, some technical stuff and scientific things, stuff like that, but not poetry. It's
Is that saying that at that time you had a little bit more troubles and your troubles were coming out in your writing?
I don't know that I would say that. I think it was just the conditions were right for me to be into writing at that time. With the internet really was a spark for me in this area because it opened up a much larger population for me to interact with. And I started finding my kindred spirits out there. It wasn't long before I found other people that like to write and do challenging puzzles and things like this, and getting into that writing group fostered all of that growth in my writing, and joining up with that writing group and accepting the critiques from other people in the group.
Interesting.
Right? Being willing to see that not as a criticism,
being open,
but only of my technique. Right?
Can we say that's quite a good thing to say, being open to change? Like a lot of people that I work with, the reason why they are like they are today is because they're not been willing to change themselves to be a better version of what they're doing. So when I work with people, a lot of it is about opening them up to identifying some things that they could change about themselves that would bring a more better future that they're going to work towards getting. And that's what change will bring. So everything that led to them being like they were today, like the older you might have reacted yesterday, might have felt bad and how dare she do that and whatnot. Or you could think that had nothing to do with me. Everything she did there to me wasn't about me, it was about her. So I'm not letting her in because this is the one thing that I can protect is me. And it's up to me. And lots of people feel, they made me feel like this. No one makes you feel like that other than you. This person here makes you feel like that. And you've got that choice.
And if you can take that position that you just described, that it's not about me, that this other person is having a difficulty and it's manifesting itself in this way. I'm experiencing it, but it's not about me. Then we have the possibility of flipping it, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Right? If we're aware of that, now if we want to really show this person some compassion, that's when we have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Only if we're aware of what's going on in our own minds.
Yeah, I agree.
And we can get out of that defensive mode and into a helpful mode, right?
And may I add this? Yesterday you were successful, but for anyone listening who isn't so successful to things like that, you might have gone back in your house there, sat down, and really dwelled on it. Let your mind go woohoo, go down its little loops as it does, and it kept going and creating nothing but worry and dreaded endings. Or, from what I always do there, is you either go in the house and do that, or go for a little walk. One of them will instantly make you feel better. One of them will make you go down a tunnel that you don't want to travel down, that has nothing but dark at the end. It starts with light. The further you go, the more like it's like the abyss going down in the sea, and it gets darker and darker.
Yep.
But I'm going to flip to one of my stories before we come to your next poem. I picked these stories last night as a quick look, and I loved them. I loved that elephant one. It was like best thing about conditioning of, what we just talked about, is if I'd meant that, like the universe delivered a story to match what you were going to tell me, Tom. We're in like, our vibrations are high together, you know what I'm saying? This one's called Don't Say Something You Regret Out of Anger. There once was a little boy who had a very bad temper. His father decided to hand him a bag of nails and said that every time the boy lost his temper, he had to hammer a nail into a fence. On the first day, the boy hammered 37 nails into the fence. The boy gradually began to control his temper over the next few weeks, and the number of nails he was hammering into the fence slowly decreased. He discovered it was easier to control his temper than to hammer those nails into the fence. Finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper at all. He told his father the news, and his father suggested that the boy should now pull out a nail every day he's kept his temper under control. The days passed, and the young boy was finally able to tell his father that all the nails were gone. The father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. "You have done well, my son, but look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar just like this one. You can put a knife in a man and draw it out. It won't matter how many times you say, 'I'm sorry.' The wound is still there." Look, I haven't got the skills to come up with these stories, but I'm great at understanding that is a story,
Yeah.
Yesterday, the knife went in, but it didn't come out because you just went, "Whoof!" You were like a supersonic man going, "You can say what you want to me. I will defend myself." She was saying it, you were going, it was just like you were repelling it, like some.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
All that work you've done on yourself, yesterday was the victory in it. You didn't get a trophy. You got to enjoy the rest of your day without someone taking their day out on you and you taking it in. That is a skill and something, because people listening to this will be thinking, "Oh, that happens to me." But you have got a choice. No one does it. No one. Your kids don't make you feel a certain way. You take it on you, whatever you've decided to feel. You can stop it in its tracks whenever you want.
Right. You can. You just have to be aware. And practice. Like I said, I still swing and miss sometimes. I'm not perfect at this.
Same.
Practice and exercise. That's something that I going through this most recent turmoil in my life. I've really realized that I've heard this. We got to practice these ideas, right? We have to put them into practice. I like the word exercise better. You
exercised your free will yesterday in order to take control of your own situations. You exercised it. Is that what you?
Well, no, I'm exercising that brain repairing, right? That neuroplasticity, the rewiring of my brain. That is what I have to exercise at this point in my life. It's that pair, the stopping myself, right? That response. My lower brain is very, very quick with its responses, much faster than my cognitive brain is, right? My lizard brain will react. It wants to give me a reaction to save my life.
Yeah.
Right? I need to not worry about the lizard brain, because I know I'm pretty much safe in this world. I don't have fires raging around me and villains sneaking up behind me.
Yeah, you're not having to protect yourself you're not in a daily war zone where you need to have that constant looking out for you. But you just said then in your recent troubles, I feel that since we chatted, that your troubles have slowly been fading.
Oh, very much so.
I've watched it. It's been delightful, and I think that having you on here more shows. Like from the first time we spoke, I feel ever since then you've been slowly working quite a lot on yourself, and things have just been getting better all around you. You're putting out lots of stuff that I think, wow, you're giving good energy and everything. There's no negative energy absorbed in it. I think everything you're passing has something that for someone to, Dalai Lama is one of your big one on your social medias. I love a bit of the old Dalai Lama. He's someone.
Oh yeah, I like him. Yeah. You know what? I think if you would have spoken to me, if we would have done the first interaction between the two of us 6 months earlier, you would have seen a completely different person.
But you weren't putting the vibration out to find me, to match me, to put you on here because we were going to move on. And ever since then, you've taken that vibration and you've been working on it yourself. So we are a product of what we do and how much intention we place on getting to where we want to be. And you're now in a place where I was going to say Malasso then, but you won't even understand that, isn't it? The lady from yesterday, when she tried to put you in a place, no.
Right.
You didn't know it. There's a skill. Like you should get, if we were at school, I'd give you a little gold star now.
A badge. I need a badge.
Yeah, a badge or sticker. Yeah. Dentistry thing. I'll get you a sticker.
You know, maybe we need to do that for mindfulness and positivity badges.
But you did get like a grade A plus yesterday. It's a real product of working on yourself that you could live right in the moment when someone was giving you everything to feel bad about and you deflected it and realized it wasn't about you. That's great strength.
And reaped the rewards for that right away. Just right away. Right.
Yes.
There was. I didn't sit in the funk at all. I didn't have to. That wasn't my funk. Right. That was her funk next door. Yeah.
But anyone wants to listen to that because everyone's getting absorbed in everyone else's. Like you get a lot of people there's a lot of stuff with people's opinion at the minute going on with COVID about how it was done, the infection. Yeah. And they live by it. I've got people on social media, all they put about is COVID masks and something about that. That's all they ever speak about. They're consumed by this one subject. What about the subject of having a good day and enjoying yourself, spreading love and helping people out and helping yourself out and having great times? No, because they've got masks. They've stopped me doing that with the masks. That's what it's like. It's nuts. I don't like the mask. We're not wearing anything, but I didn't like wearing it. But I'd wear one.
Yep. Like the little rope on the big elephant leg. Right?
Nice.
Just like that.
Go on, give us another piece of your poetry because we're going to get getting towards the endish now. So,
all right. So how about let's see. No, I don't have that one. Oh, where's that?
Well, while you're finding one, I'll read you something out. This isn't mindfulness, but when I was looking for short stories and poems, I read this, like one of my favorite things ever said, and it is a small thing, and I suppose it's a conflict-related story, but it wasn't for me. It's about national pride and a bit more than that, because it was like both of us were connected by this. It was what Winston Churchill said on Dunkirk in 1940 when he said, "We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." That's what you did yesterday. You were fighting them outside your house. You were fighting them on the lawn. You were fighting them on your path. We shall fight you and never.
Yeah, you do a good Churchill.
I absolutely love Churchill. Funny. When we were younger, we were wrapped up in a war with Germany. You used to say it a lot. Whereas now, I love Germany, and you see, like things change. What was like, they're not living in the past. They're not living in the past that went on there. They're living in the future. And you go to Germany. I've never met people more like us. Do you know what I mean? Like, I go there, and as British, some places we go, they don't like us for whatever reason. But the Germans really, I got on really well in Germany and loved
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. The Germans are great people. They needed to get their stuff together there. They were off track for a while. Now they're back on track. It's
Let me just follow this on to the final bit was, never give in, never, 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 in nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honour and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. He was amazing. Just like, I mean, whoa, what a sensational guy who rallied everything up for us to go on and conquer, you know, at that time. I love that. This is you. As I read every one of these, I'm thinking about you.
Well, I think he was one of the great orators of all time, Winston Churchill.
And he was in a time that was different as well, though. So we've always got to look at times are different, and he was in a time that was very different. Yeah. But let's flip it. Go on, get me found one. This is your last one.
You know what? How about I would like to read something it's not my work. It's actually one of my. This is a very powerful.
Perfect.
It's a very powerful little piece here. It's an excerpt from a book by Brene Brown. The book is called The Power of Vulnerability. All right. And in it, this comes from a audio version of the book. So she's speaking to a large group of people, about 3,000 psychology practitioners were in the room. And she asked the question, how many of you talk about love in your work? And 2 people raised their hands. And then she said, how many of you would be willing to walk outside this room and never experience love again? And nobody raised their hand. And she said, how many of you believe that love is the absolute most important human experience? Everyone raised their hand. And she said, then why aren't we talking about it? Because we can't measure it. Love comes out of language, but language is a place of struggle. All right? Well, that's pretty significant. She explains a bit more about how in her dozen years of grounded theory research on love, she developed this definition. Love. We cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known, and when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that offering with trust, respect, kindness, and affection. Love is not something we give or get. It's something that we nurture and grow, a connection that can only be cultivated between 2 people when it exists in each one of them. We can only love each other as much as we love ourselves. Shame, blame, disrespect, and betrayal, and the withholding of affection damage the roots from which love grows. Love can only survive these injuries if they are acknowledged, healed, and rare.
I love it.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. It's
what was she called? I've seen that book. I think I've actually read it, but I've read so many books that they're just a merge of bloody 150, 200 books. Yeah, she's a professor of psychology and grounded theory. That's her background as a grounded theory research, and she has focused on mindfulness, on authenticity, on when she gets invited to speak. When she was just getting started and she would get invited to speak and they would say, well, what are you going to talk about? And she said, well, I talk about shame. And nobody wanted her to talk about shame, right, at these public events, but that's what she does. And I think when you identify shame, you identify the opposite of shame. And we're all looking for opposites, aren't we? More of the time, looking for opposites. Everyone talks about negativity when really we're looking for positivity. Yeah. So in exploring what the opposite is, we can find out what the other side of it is, and then we can put ourselves in that side. So it's not, knowing about the negative things is a lie if you don't want to say they exist, because they do. Happened to you yesterday.
Yeah, they do. They do. And how do we respond to that stimuli, right? How do we
respond? Everything is how do, and the other one is how do we respond as individuals when it's not someone else? You know, like we've gone from a challenging day and we've got to start a new day and we've got to respond to it. You know, how we respond to everything is our choice and it's our mark and it's how we're seen by others. And we can change that at any point. We might have responded badly last week, but we realised it. So we realise it, we recoup, we change it. We don't get hooked in the past condition that's how we have to be. We've got a choice when we do it again. You know what I mean? Every time is a new opportunity to start again. And you can do that whenever you want.
Yeah. I heard.
Do you remember before I said about the poem on someone's arm? This is that poem. So you've probably heard of this one because it's by Rudyard Kipling. Have you heard it?
Maybe.
It's called If.
I think I have heard it, yes.
Yeah, so it was written on. So when I went surfing when we were about 32, a guy came. He wasn't part of our crew. He knew one of them, and he came. He was nuts. He was called Harry. He was nuts in a good way. He was actually nuts, but he was cool. And this is what he had written on his arm. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if a man count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everyone that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. That was written to his boy, as he was growing up to. It was great, and that I think Harry's dad had read him that poem, and that's why he wrote it on his arm. And his dad had passed away, and it was a special little poem written to his son about what you can do in life. Quality.
Right.
We're getting to the end, Tom. Every time we do this, it's just brilliant. It just absolutely flies by, and I get a real buzz out of it. But the main aim, what we've talked about today, is mindfulness, how we can achieve it. And how we don't just give in on past experiences before that haven't worked. We try again. Keep trying. Every day brings a new stage to start again. Yesterday's performance is gone. Today is all that matters. If we live every day and stay in the moment that we're in and don't look back, don't look forward, we get to enjoy the beauty of this beautiful place. And I get to listen to you, Tom.
Right here and right now.
Right here, right now.
Right.
Awesome, mate. I forgot to mention, Tom got up at 5 a.m. for this, which is absolutely... On Mindful Wizard, something came up, so he'll be on again. So thanks for filling in, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Have a top day.
All right. Yep. Bye-bye.